and this is a regular meeting of the Port of Portland Commission, but we are meeting virtually for this meeting, and the commissioners are available on Microsoft Teams. I'd like to call for a motion and a second to grant a leave of absence to Commissioner Adams, who is out of town.
So moved.
Second.
Pam, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioners Koba,
Aye.
Devon,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Luther,
Aye.
Nemi,
Aye.
Samput,
Aye.
and Strader.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, motion carries. Thank you. I'd like a motion and a second for approval of the minutes for both the regular commission meeting of June 12th, 2024, and the special commission meeting of June 25th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Pam, please call the roll.
Commissioners Koba,
Aye.
Devon,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Luther,
Aye.
Nemi,
Aye.
Samput,
Aye.
and Strader.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. It's time for our executive director's report. Curtis, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for doing this meeting remotely. I was just talking to Commissioner Johnson about how the port tradition used to be a casual July where people would show up in Hawaiian shirts. And this time we're trying to use the lessons learned in the pandemic to make folks' lives easier and stay where you are, either at home or at work or whatever you do. So thanks for doing that this month. Appreciate it. If I could have the next slide that draw attention to our safety champions this month. Again, across the business, 3 actually of these employees based out of HQ, and Jerry over at maintenance. Just really great stories here. I think many of you know Walt from his presence at PDX, but just real commitment from our team to helping each other stay safe, and in particular, as we try to get everyone up to speed on the new terminal at PDX, several of you folks have really just leaned in. So thanks to all of them, and happy to recognize them this month. Could I have Beverly Pierman? Beverly, are you with us? Beverly, who's giving our safety message this month. She's our Public Safety and Security Director.
Yes.
There we go.
Yep, I'm here.
Great. Go,
Thanks,
Beverly.
Curtis. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. I'm Beverly Pierman, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Public Safety and Security. I'm accountable for occupational safety, health, and wellness, and our emergency response, security, and emergency management functions. There are about 133 employees in these organizations, which include police, fire, airport communications center, emergency management, and aviation security. The safety message today is going to highlight our recent employee safety and health accomplishments of the police and fire departments. As first responders, they face challenging safety issues that can be unpredictable and life-threatening. Both departments have cultures that are very focused on safety, and they've matured their occupational safety and health culture and improved their metrics over the last year. Our staff are routinely educating and training and conducting exercises to improve their processes and to make sure that they're operating as safely as they can. They plan their work, assess risks, and employ tactical safety controls every day in the process of doing their jobs. But unfortunately, safety incidents can occur, and when they happen, the managers consult with the safety team and conduct very thorough analysis and prescribe continuous improvement actions. 40 incident cases were reported to safety in the past year, with 94 tasks prescribed to prevent reoccurrence of the incidents. Public safety and security as a whole ended the fiscal year 24 with 94% of our safety corrective action plans closed, and at a very high closure rate in terms of addressing the issues, doing the reviews. In addition, Port Police uses a very thorough after-action review process as a learning tool that informs for process improvements on many of their interactions with the public. Oftentimes, the injuries the officers incur happen during pursuits or trying to arrest folks who are not cooperating, use of force, those types of things. The safety team reports to me that police is consistently the most rigorous business line on timely reporting of incidents and incident investigation with corrective actions prescribed. They also had the highest corrective action plan closure rate of any division at 95%. I'm engaged with the Safety Steering Committee Council to anticipate and recognize occupational safety and health opportunities at PDX, especially as the footprint expands and they have even more area that they're going to be covering. And I also support the planning and work of our accountable managers who are executing to enable continuous improvement in employee safety and health. Thank you for your time today.
Great. Thank you, Beverly. Appreciate you and the team really focusing on reporting specifically the safety more broadly. Also, shout out to you and your team. We had 2 chiefs on the barbecue yesterday, both chief of police and chief of the fire department for our Employees for Education nonprofit fundraiser yesterday. So thank you guys for leading in and really helping our community be safe and also supporting education. Ooh, I like that. I don't know who managed to do all that. Thank you, Rochelle. By way of announcements and things going on, we had a couple weeks ago a visit out at T2, our Mass Timber Housing Innovation Campus, from Congressman Bonamici and Senators Wyden and Merkley, delivering officially the $4 million check for that effort. It's just a real push for us, and really nice to get the support from our delegation for the Innovation Campus. The work continues on site. We're just really excited about the future and what's coming there, and want to thank our delegation for that support. Some of you may have read in the paper, starting this October, KLM is going to start flying the route, direct route to Amsterdam that's currently served by Delta. We're really grateful to Delta for serving that route for 15 years. KLM is just a great airline and a great partner. You'll still be able to book that flight through Delta. They're going to fly the 787, the Dreamliner. I think many of you know I love this plane. It's really great. It's actually a composite body, and it's about 20% more efficient than its predecessors. It's been out for about 15 years now. It's still just sort of the sign of aging when you start feeling like brand new things are actually 15 years old. It's got the cool little dimmers on the window that I love and my kids love. The flight, using the Dreamliner is actually a better fit for us right now in this market. And so we're enthused that KLM is going to be flying it 3 times a week in the winter and more frequencies in the summer. I believe that's 5 in the summer. Some of you have participated in our diversity summits in the past, and we just concluded in June our most recent diversity summit. It went really well. Shout out to the team and leadership of Martine, who many of you met. Just really great participation. Over 200 employees participated in workshops and sort of awareness events. It's just really terrific, and helped us meet our Port Share target around EI and equity training. So thank you to the team for a really great series of events over the course of June. And then finally, maybe to throw back to middle school, my friends, the Pointer Sisters, who was around in 1982, 83. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. We are getting ready to open the new terminal here on August 14th. We've got a bunch of employee events and visitor events scheduled. A shout out to Vince Granato and his team for really focusing on safety and conclusion of this work. It looks great. The trees are in. You're going to get an update here later this morning from Chris Neal about progress and preparation, but we're just really looking forward to what will be a seminal event, honestly, in the history of the port. So I'm thrilled. We could talk about Thriller and Michael Jackson, but we're just going to stick with the Pointer Sisters for now. Madam President, that's all I've got. Thank you for the time this morning. Happy to take questions or sit quietly.
Thank you. Any questions for Curtis? Not seeing anybody's hand or anyone speaking. So can I get a motion and a second to adopt the executive director's report?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Pam, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioners Koba,
Aye.
Devon,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Luther,
Aye.
Nemi,
Aye.
Sampat,
Aye.
and Strader.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We did not receive any public comments this month, so we will move on to our general discussion item, and I'd like to call on Vince to introduce the item. And we're so excited.
Yeah, good call out by Curtis. I got to do my whole Pointer Sisters thing here, right? Okay. Well, we are really excited about it. I mean, the next commission meeting is opening day. And so that's, my little countdown clock here, 34 days. But the other big date is actually July 26th. That is the date upon which we're scheduled to get the permit approvals from the city to occupy the space. So that's the date that we're really hunting to right now, which is, 2 weeks from Friday. And as we've been back behind the scenes and we've been giving a lot of tours to folks, you can see it is really coming together very, very quickly. And all the testing that's been going on by the city on fire life safety, all those kinds of things that allow us to occupy the space. And that's when we'll really be able to get into the testing phase, which is what Chris is going to talk about here in a minute. There's been a tremendous amount of work, but before we get into that, I guess I do want to address the safety, which has been paramount on this project. The safety record remains outstanding. We're 5.3 million craft hours. It's been over a year since a lost time incident. We did take a little bit of a delay to move the date and to get it done safely. It was the right decision. The team has felt very good about that. And the best part of it is that it's really going to be an opening. We'd always intended that we'd continue to be working on it even while we were open once we did that in May. And now we're getting everything done. So there'll be no any kind of material impacts to the traveling public at all. When we open, it's going to be open and we're going to get going with it. So we can't wait to show it. Honestly, I get chills walking through it as it's really coming to life. So we're excited about that. And I'm going to let Chris now talk about all of the testing that's about to come to fruition here and all the engagement that we're going to get friends and family and the general public. And we've had a great response on that. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris now.
Thank you, Vince. Everybody, can I get a thumbs up? You can hear me? Yes? Okay, slowly I've been marking off all of my talking points as Vince was going here. I started with like 40 things I was going to say, and now I'm down to 2. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, Vince. No, I'm just messing around. So let me do the first 2 big things right off the bat, schedule and budget. Like Vince has already mentioned, we are on schedule, so we're excited about that. Nobody has flinched about TCO and when it's going to get turned over from the construction site to us on the 26th. Nobody has flinched about opening day being on August 14. Fantastic. The second one that everybody worries and thinks about is budget. We are on budget. We don't have any material big risks out there that we need to talk about. So that's all good as well, which means whoever gave me the hand clap, thank you. I appreciate that. And so now, if the last time you were out there, there were times where we would do tours and people would say, oh my gosh, it seems like there's a whole lot that needs to get done. How are we going to get this? How are we going to make all this happen? Well, I like to tell everybody, when you've got 950 workers out there, this ain't your kitchen cabinets that you did last year in your kitchen. You can get a whole lot of stuff done in a short amount of time. Every time that we go out there, whether it's weekly, every other week, there's always something new that you didn't see that's been done. And so the next 4 slides I'm going to show are going to show just the amount of progress that's happened over the last couple months. So let's go to the first slide here. So take a look at that. if you have not been back there in the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, it did not look like this. We've got the terrazzo floors that are all revealed now. The carpet is all revealed now. We're starting to look a whole lot more like a finished terminal versus a construction site. A lot of the equipment and stuff like that has also been pulled out. You can see the Oregon white oak, the floor there right along the concessions. Let's go to the next slide. There's another great shot. It's starting to look, like I said, more like an airport now. We've gotten a lot done. Video walls, the terrazzo floor, the carpet, the automated bag drops with Alaska, etc. All these big milestones are starting to come to fruition. So when you walk out there now, you can recognize what things are, where they're supposed to be, etc. Let's go to the next one, because I think the next two are never seen before nighttime photos. This is what it's going to look like at night. All of you, I'm sure, have gone through during the day, etc. But having the lights on now and seeing what it'll look like at that later in the nighttime with the lights coming through and all of that, I think is just fantastic. Like Vince mentioned, like Curtis mentioned, we're super excited about all of this. I think I got one more. Let's go to the next slide. Nighttime shot. There you go. I'll give you a hint who that is in the orange vest over there in the background. Yes, I put the slide up that had me in it, so I hope you don't mind. You can see us testing the video wall there on the right-hand side, but just look at that roof, that 9-acre beautiful wood roof, and how it works with the floor, with the carpet, with everything. Yes, whoever put the heart up there, thank you, because if I could do it right now, I would do it as well. I just think everything looks fantastic. We're super excited about it. And I just can't wait for you all to see it again. Let's go to the next slide, and I'll talk about some of the work stuff. I always like to start with the fun, what it's going to look like. Oh, good. One more. Trees are here. I think Curtis said this one. I was hoping he wouldn't because it was on my list, but he did. But here you go. You can actually see the trees starting to come in now. They started maybe a week and a half ago. And over the next 2 weeks or so, all the trees will be in. If you don't know, these are olive trees that were grown in Florida. So we've got them all coming in now. I expect by the end of the month, they'll all be in. And the whole Pacific Northwest design, walk through the Pacific Northwest forest, sense of home, sense of place, sense of calm, all of that stuff is starting to come to fruition now. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, this is the work stuff. 2 things I'll point out. Number one, the intermediate trials. That happens at the end of this month on the 30th. We sent out invites. What we were praying for is between 400 and 600 people, friends and family, to come and, like Vince mentioned, test everything out, pressurize, do a dress rehearsal. 400 to 600, that's what we were hoping for. The 400 to 600 list got filled up within about 5 minutes. The community showed up. Not only did the 400 to 600 sign up show up, get done in about 5 minutes, we've got a wait list that is as long as heaven's wait list, I would imagine. This wait list goes to infinity. I don't even think that we're going to get to the wait list. That's how much the community showed up. That's how much people care about Portland, PDX, and what it is that we're doing here. So that's the intermediate trial. Then the next one that we've got is the advanced trial. That happens later on August 3rd. You can see there on the map. So here are the numbers for that. We were hoping for 1,800 to 2,200. And I got to be honest with you. First time I heard that, I thought, oh my God, there's no way. That's a ton of people. One day it took, commissioners, one day to fill up 800 to 2,200 people. And again, another wait list that's a mile long. The community showed up. Everybody here in the area all showed up for this. I'm super excited about that as well. So once we get done doing those 2 trials, I think I've talked about this before. I'm pretty sure I have. The purpose is you do the intermediate, you get feedback, you apply all that feedback, then you do the advanced, and God willing, you've taken care of all the little things like signage and bathroom. How do I get to the coffee maker? There is no coffee maker. How do I get to coffee? How do I get to the checkpoint? All of that type of stuff. And so we can apply all the lessons learned from the intermediate to the advanced. So that way, come opening day on the 14th, we've ironed out all those wrinkles. Any questions that I can answer from anyone on all of this. Those are just the two big things that I want to let you all know it's going well, and we're getting prepared. Curtis's room.
Yes,
Commissioner
Grace,
Johnson?
awesome work. Thanks. It is awesome to get it to this point. But I just have a couple of questions because the devil is always in the detail. What is in the intermediate trial and the advanced trial as it relates to the systems that will essentially shut down a successful opening? I don't know what those systems are. Maybe it's baggage, maybe it's something with TSA, but what qualification, what are the systems? Maybe there's 2 or 3 or 5 systems that will basically say the terminal's not working. And what are those systems, and what's the difference between the intermediate trial and the advanced trial, and what systems are in those two efforts?
I can do that. There's 4 main areas that we're looking at. Ticket counter is one, gotta have that. Number 2 is baggage, as you mentioned already, sir. Number 3 is bathrooms, and then number 4 is the checkpoint. Those are the main things that have to happen in order for us to open up. There's actually 3 different trial categories that we have. One is basic trials. You can see there on the screen. We've been doing basic trials for the last 8 or 9 months. Basic trials are employees that are getting familiarization with where they're going to be working come opening day. So you're not fumbling through trying to figure out how to get through the new space. Not only are you doing a familiarization of the space, but you're also doing a familiarization of new technology and things like that that you're going to incur on opening day. That's basic. Intermediate trial is when we're bringing in, like I mentioned, the 400 to 600 persons that are going to, friends and family. And the way that's going to work is each one of those folks will get a script. And the script will tell an individual, you're flying on Alaska, go get a coffee, go to the bathroom, and then go to the checkpoint. And then that individual will then go through and try to achieve all of that stuff as if they were a normal passenger. And they will hit all 4 of those components that are most important for this thing to work. Once they go through the screening checkpoint, then they'll be given another script that is an arriving script that will say, all right, now exit out, buy a gift for your family, use the bathroom again, XYZ, go get your bag, whatever it is. And then they will achieve that as they go out. That's the intermediate. And then that's when we'll take all the information. Someone says, I couldn't find the bathroom. I didn't know where the coffee was. TSA took too long. That's when we'll apply all of that information from intermediate to the advanced. The advanced is the big boy because that is when the general public, not friends and family, not people that kind of know the system already. This is general public who very well could not have been in the airport for the last 5 years. Then they will do some of the exact same scripts, and then they will give us some of the same feedback, if you will, that we did with the other 2. And that's what we'll apply before opening day. Most of the things that we're anticipating is things like signage, wayfinding, stuff like that. A lot of the typical things when you open up a brand new facility that people just aren't used to yet.
And maybe just the second question is I'm a fan of Murphy's Law. I think it's the greatest law ever. When you get past these 2 intermediate and advanced trials and you are go live, do you have contingencies for those 3, 4, 5 systems that should something go wrong? Maybe there's a breaker that just shuts down your ticket counters. Do you have contingencies for those kinds of scenarios?
We do have contingencies for those types of scenarios. The checkpoint would probably be one of the bigger ones that we would have to have a contingency in place for. But yes, sir, we've thought through a lot of those things. Bathrooms, on the other hand, porta potties aren't going to work. Can't do that. So the bathrooms, all of the 4 that I'm talking about, it's definitely not that we're waiting to the last to see if that stuff works. All that stuff works today. Moreover, these trials are about how does it work with the passengers and are they familiar, et cetera. There's no way we're going to get to the opening day without one of those 4, without being absolutely confident that those 4 are going to happen.
Awesome. Again, commend you guys for great work. I think this is awesome and looking forward to the opening day. So,
Commissioner Luther? You're on. mute
Yes,
still.
I was curious with that many, I love the community response and engagement, and that's really, really super fantastic. And also with that many kind of unknown people coming into a brand new facility, I was just curious whether there are any security measures with those people coming in to the brand new facility that, you know, that were taken around, or what, you know, what are we doing to ensure that we know who's going to be there and we don't have somebody who's trying to sort of, you know, thwart some type of activity. Not that, you know, anyone would want to do that, but, you know, it is Portland after all. And we do have a lot of activists and we invite community in. You know, I just think being skeptical is always a little bit healthy too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, for sure. So the way the process is going to work, when you come in, there'll be a registration. One, everybody's already registered ahead of time, et cetera. So we know who's coming, we know how many people, et cetera. When they all come in, everybody will then do a registration desk down in the tunnel. So there'll be different desks there where you check in, you get a badge. That's where you'll get your script on exactly what you're supposed to do, all of that. And then these people will come in waves. So it's not necessarily like there's going to be 22 people, 2,200 folks all standing somewhere where there's room for that many people. And then they're all just going to, you know, rush into the terminal. It's not that. They're all coming in waves over the courses of hours. And so if you imagine a couple hundred at a time will then come into the space, they'll do exactly what I outlined earlier. They'll go out and then the next group will come in. It'll flow in that way. So we do know who is showing up. God forbid if somebody does have an ulterior motive, et cetera, when they go in to do the testing. I know good and well Beth Bierman, who does this all day, every day. We'll have her staff will be out there, a lot of fire, life safety, et cetera, police, fire. All of them are part of this as well, as part of the experiment. So that's how it's really going to work when it comes to the personnel, people that are coming through.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I don't see any. All right, fantastic. Now we're all so excited. It's going to be great. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Chris, very much. Great presentation. I think I might just want to move in and live there, especially with the pool there. Thanks, Meg.
The one thing I just want to add in is, I mean, I have to say thank you for the reports, but also at this stage in the project, and Vince and Chris still smile with the report. That's a good sign. Secondly, the night picture kind of disappointed me because I didn't see the disco light. Chris, where's my disco light? Right? So, just kidding. I just want to say kudos to the team. Very, very excited to see the August 12th, right? We get to see August 12th. And I have to say, continue to keep the smile up. I know sometime at this stage in projects, high emotion can be real. So just keep smiling and it will go away. I promise you that. So thank you. Appreciate it.
It's going to be fabulous. No doubt about it. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. We have 2 action items today. I'm going to ask Christina Kelcher to introduce our first item.
Thank you, Commissioner Kova. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Christina Kelchner, Chief Development Services Officer, and my pronouns are she, her. This next item is pretty straightforward, and it is seeking approval of 3 on-call contracts for specialized services that we don't have in-house. The Port routinely uses on-call contracts as an efficient way to resource our construction projects. And we use them for specialized and unique services that don't make sense for us to have in-house because they require specialized equipment or certifications, expensive training that just wouldn't pencil out for us to have in-house, or we use on-call contracts for seasonal construction demands so that we can quickly deploy resources as we need them. So it's something we routinely do, have on-call contracts, and we make sure that we are getting competitive pricing and providing opportunity for the community to participate in those by going out regularly to solicit for those on-call contracts. So this contract before you, these contracts are going to be a term of 5 years, at which point we'll need to go out again and solicit again. And we're before you today because the previous contracts that we had for these services did expire. So we went out with an RFP and are ready to award contracts so that we have a stable of professionals available to us to keep our construction contracts moving. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ahmad Kayomi, who is our chief engineer here at the port.
Good morning, commissioners. It's always a tough act to follow, Chris. So my presentation would not be as exciting, but it is a very important contract that we have, and we're seeking your approval to award the contract to 3 firms that we selected through RFP process. Next slide, please. We selected the 3 firms that met our requirements, and these are the contracts that we're going to be seeking your approval. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background why what is this contract involved and why it's so important for us to have the on-call services through these firms. We do a lot of work in concrete, asphalt, and steel and other infrastructures that needs independent verification for compliance for standards and the requirements for other agencies that we work with. So it's always important to have somebody to independently verify to make sure these are met. And this is, as Christina mentioned, this will be on-call services and to provide more efficiency for the port as we need them, and so they can respond right away and make sure that our project and construction projects stay on schedule. Next slide, please. So as Christina mentioned, the on-call will be for 5 years, and as we need them, we'll call them. And as for every project that we're going to be doing at the port for the special inspection, testing, and things like that. We will be working with the firms to develop special tests as we need them, and making sure that they meet our standards, especially for the small business enterprises. We have aspirational goal of about 20% and making sure those are met, but we have that as part of contract, even though sometimes might be difficult, but that's something that we're going to be talking to the firms about that. And one thing that at the end of each month, we'll report to you any of those contracts that we have exercised for any of the firms. Next slide, please. So this is our rough schedule. We did the selection in 2024, and we are here before you to get that approval. And the contract will expire in 2029, middle of 2029. Next slide, please. So we are recommending the executive director's recommendation to approve the contract, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ahmad? Not seeing any.
Yeah,
All right.
I got one.
Commissioner Johnson.
So just so I'm clear, why is it a 5-year contract versus an annual contract? And then if it's 5 years, is cost locked in for 5 years? Or, I mean, if their labor is $100 an hour, is it $100 an hour for the next 5 years, or is there some escalation in the contract that we've agreed to?
Good question. One thing for in terms of efficiency, if we need contractors, so they'll be available. So that's one reason that we try and do this pilot project for 5 years. Before that, we had 3 years on call, but I think that this last series has been 5 years. So one to more efficiency. And then I think in terms of the cost escalation, I don't know if we have S&P, our contractor procurement, if they can provide an answer. If not, we can probably do a follow-up on that, on the cost escalation for you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If it's locked in, that's awesome. But I just don't know that anybody's going to lock in costs for 5 years. And I just want to make sure we understand what that looks like. Because a 5-year contract, and if there's escalation in there, how's that accounted for? So just be a good question. And maybe the other question is this consistent with how we do all our contracts, or just some of them?
It looks like we maybe have someone join us, hopefully with an answer.
Yep. I think we have Bobby Matthews. She's going to provide us some answers on that.
Excellent. Bobby, if you're on, you can go ahead.
Love to go.
Well, we're working on getting Bobby on it. Maybe commissioners, I'll just note an answer to Commissioner Johnson's question about the duration. We originally piloted a 3-year, as Ahmad described, and then it moved to a 5-year. And much of this is the effort for the expertise that Christina spoke to in the intro that we don't have in-house. They tend to be smaller contracts. So for Ahmad and his team, accessing that resource externally is something that's really beneficial to us. And to do that on an annualized basis means, because of our public contracting rules, we'd have to go and run a new RFP every year. So it's just resource intensive to do it that way. We tried 3, it kind of felt like 5 made more sense. We do want to be able to revisit that. And if we want to switch them out, as Ahmad described, you have a regular cadence where you're evaluating how folks have done and you're going back out to the market to have a look at pricing and accessibility. So it has been a real benefit to us to do it this way. Most of our larger contracts, as you know, they come to you directly. And this is more smaller bore contracts that have a specific area of expertise that we don't have in-house.
And I was just going to add that the actual contract amount is negotiated at the time that the services are requested, and so the are shared with us by the provider at that time. It's negotiated, yeah.
And just to add one more, most of these firms are in high demand because of a lot of construction activities that are happening around Portland area. So having them on contract as we need them and providing us faster service is really key for a lot of projects that we do. So that's another advantage of having them on call and have for at least 5-year period.
Yeah, makes sense. I think the only outstanding question is just the kind of the escalation and cost over the 5-year period.
We'll be happy to follow up with that and provide some more information on that.
Commissioner Lamb, did you have a question?
Well, I just want to comment something thanks Curtis for verifying that our team will, hold them accountable in terms of going back and reviewing with them. But I just want us to be very mindful, because once a contract awarded, it's, the contract signed, it kind of put in the file, right? And then unless there's something happen, then we'll pull it out and review it or discuss about it. But when we put in the word of overall aspirational goal for the SBE participations, that's kind of like, we put in there kind of good faith. And then I like that a little bit more, how do we hold that a good effort for the company to go out and outreach and embrace the small businesses along the way. So those are the things I like us to, if we do an annual review, these are the things I like to be very intentional in asking. What are the efforts that you go out there and get the participation in? So I like to have that more in our process in awarding contracts.
Excellent. Anything else? We will have staff follow up for Commissioner Johnson's question that we weren't able to answer today. So with that, can I get a motion and a second to approve the executive director's recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Any last questions? All right, Pam, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioners Koba,
Aye.
Devon,
Aye.
Johnson. Commissioner
Aye.
Johnson.
There we
Thank
go.
you. Lamb,
Aye.
Luther,
Aye.
Nemi,
Aye.
Sampat,
Aye.
and Strader.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our last agenda item, I'm going to ask Keith Levitt to introduce it.
Great, thank you. I'm having pandemic and Pointer Sister kind of just going completely back. I feel like there's a pandemic in the 1970s, early 80s going on right now. So this is a really important item, even though it is, your typical garden variety pavement related project going on at a marine terminal. The reason that this is important is, one, we've not been able to capture the wave of investment that the particularly federal government has been putting out the door with infrastructure programs over the last several years. And part of that has just been the uncertainty with the future of Terminal 6. This project really aligns with a more flexible future. And so our team did great work here in making sure that kind of the mix of uses that is this 200-acre container footprint, but within that 200-acre container footprint, we want to be able to move uses around and have the ability to be flexible between break bulk, containers, intermodal rail, even some additional auto storage. And so I really appreciate and just want to call out the great work of our team. This overall project, as Robin will describe, is about a $40 million plus project, and most of it is covered by federal and state grant dollars. This is also very consistent with the industry leader committee that you all have heard about. We created in 2018. We had a 21-member industry leader committee. It was chaired by a port commissioner. They came up with a broad set of recommendations, but the foundation of those recommendations was having mixed use facility while you are still serving the container mission. And those recommendations are alive and well today and are very consistent with the direction that we're taking with the business plan that we owe to the governor at the end of August, and with the governor's commitment to put in her budget specific support for T6 while we build out the other types of uses around that. So really excited that we're getting this done now. And with that, I'm going to have Robin describe the agenda item.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Good morning, commissioners. Next slide, please. All right, the action before you is the award of a public improvement contract to Nutter Corporation for this project, the Berth 606 Flexible Storage Project, for roughly $8.6 million. Next slide, please. All right, so there we go. So this is just an overview of the T6 location, just to orient you. This is our most flexible terminal in terms of cargo handling. It's our terminal on the Columbia. So that's, again, just a location figure. Next slide, please. All right, so I like this figure because it really speaks to what Keith was just talking about in terms of just the magnitude of what we serve in terms of mix at the terminal. And you can see, I'd ask you to put on your pavement filter glasses here also, because what you can see is on the right and left of this picture, you see the auto functions. And if you translated that to pavement, think thin. And then when you look in the middle and you see the multi-use, which is break bulk, oversized cargo, you see the container capacity, the intermodal yard that's currently set up, think thick pavement, because those are heavier loads. A flatbed of steel is going to weigh a lot more than an auto. And so where that pavement is thick and in good condition, that's what sets the stage for what areas we can put heavier cargo. So by adding the heavier pavement, and next slide, please. So you can see here a little preview of what I'm going to be showing you. So in terms of adding the heavier pavement, if you focus more on that, the not quite rectangle, the larger shape, you can see that that's really where we're going to be expanding the heavy pavement into what is now the lighter pavement, which gives us a little more flexibility in use of all of what we have that we currently support with the heavier pavement now. And you'll see there's a series of 6 small rectangles. Those are really just to maintain the operation we have. Those are more to address short-term needs. And I would say that the larger orange area is really looking at the future. And I don't have a slide that shows you the $40 million project that Keith was talking about. This is a piece of that, but it will, if you can picture a project that spans really everything from the edge of the orange larger shape all the way to roughly berth 604, that area is going to have a lot of construction related to this future piece of the $40 million project, which does have federal funds, and you will see in more detail at a later date, there will be an action that comes before you for that. The thing to keep in mind here is that this piece, while it's isolated, really supports that broader effort and feeds into that. So I'll get into that a little bit more in a moment, but next slide. All right, so this is a little bit more of a close-up and a focus on the improvements. I talked about the 6 boxes, I'll say rectangles on the left side of your screen. Those are mill and inlay, and you'll see a picture in a little bit of the condition of that pavement, and I think it'll speak for itself as to why we need to fix that pavement. Right now, the thing to take away here is that it's the most efficient place to put containers. You can see it's adjacent to the cranes. It's a straight shot to the road, which I don't know if you could see, but it's in the lower left, or the gates. It's really important pavement to have access to when you're looking at the margins of your operating costs. So that is the orange that's really focused on today. And then if you look at the blue and the green, that's the area that we're talking about tearing out the thinner pavement and putting in a much thicker section. And because that area is not in our stormwater treatment basins, we're going to be putting in an infiltration system. There is the green box to the top of the page on the riverside. All right, next slide, please. All right, this is that picture that I told you about. This is a dated photo, but I guarantee you the pavement has not improved since this photo was taken. And what you can see in the picture is this has been after it's rained, and you can see all the depressions. Those are the darker areas. So when you think of a container, has 4 points at each corner to take the load when a container is set down. Right now, containers getting set down here, they're not taking the load at 4 points, they're taking it along the base of that container, which is harder to pick up for a reach stacker, and it's also it's more it makes the containers more prone to damage, and so these areas aren't used very often, and so being able to improve the pavement will let us. Wow, that is energy savings in action right there. Okay, so being able to use the pavement is really going to help us. We have an asset sitting there, we can't really use it right now. So a simple mill and inlay gives us use again. The only other piece listed on these work elements that I would add is that we are going to be putting in a more efficient and safer for maintenance lighting system. And that is a precursor of things to come throughout the rest of the yard in that future project. But we're getting a little taste of it now, which is really exciting. We'll get all the kinks worked out before we go ahead and do it much more large scale. All right, next slide, please. All right, the schedule. We are at the Red Diamond today, and you'll see that this project has a very short construction window. We expect to be finished by the end of the calendar year. It's a open, straightforward pavement project. As Keith said, there's nothing particularly complicated about this project. It's a straight paving job for the most part. Next slide, please. So budget and funding, we were pleased to have a robust bid response for this project. We had 8 bidders, which usually, and it did today also, or at least when we open the bids, corresponds to very competitive bid pricing. Always super comfortable with the pricing when we get that many bidders. We know we get something good. And so what you see here is that top line is roughly the $8.6 million that's before you for consideration. The total project budget is nearly $11 million. And I am pleased to say that our contractor hit our small business goal of 12%. It was clean, no questions. That was wonderful to see. And this will be funded in part by general fund and also through the state's Connect Oregon program. So we have the state support for this. I will not get into broader funding strategies. I think Keith has alluded to the support piece of this, but we also had a lot of community support, I'll say, with letters, and that helped us to get that Connect Oregon grant, and it's also helped us for the project that's now the 40 million, where we were able to leverage the federal funds. That support was a critical piece of our applications in both cases. Next slide, please. And with that, staff requests approval of the executive director's recommendation.
Thank you, Robin. Questions from the commission?
Yeah.
Commissioner Sampat, hello.
Yes, hello. Could you just clarify the numbers? Because I heard a 40 million from Keith. There is a 10 million with 2 sources of funding, our general fund and a grant, and there's a request for 8. So I just want to make sure I'm tracking.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is a little convoluted in this case, because what we've done is use this project as leverage for a different funding, a federal funding bucket. So that federal money isn't actually a part of this portion of the work that you're seeing. So how do I put this? So we got the Connect Oregon money. We leveraged port funds to get the Connect Oregon money, and that is this project. Then when we used this project to leverage the federal project, and that's what you're not seeing here. And what you will see coming to you within 6 months is going to be the other piece of that. So the 40 minus this 11 roughly is what you'll see. That'll be the number that you see next time, is that difference. And we'll lay out a little bit more of the connection of the funding at that time. But this project right now only uses the Connect Oregon money, and that's what you're seeing. Did I answer your question?
Commissioner Sampat.
Yeah,
Commissioner Sampat.
Yep.
If I could, if you don't mind, I'll just step in here and certainly
jump in.
Yeah, if anything that Keith wants to add. So if we step back and just look at the project in totality, what Robin was describing from a funding perspective was a project cost of about $41 million. If you, we got federal money that amounts to about 24.3. And then we've got the Connect Oregon money that is about 7.3. And then that leaves about $10 million. So that is going to be supported by the port. So that's just big picture. If you look at what Keith referenced in terms of the majority of this project in totality, about 75% is being funded either by federal or state, and then 25% coming from the port. With this portion of it, the split is about 70-30. So when I mentioned about the 7.3 million, that will be applied, and then the port from the general fund for this piece of it will be about 3 million and change, if you can think of it like that. So again, phase one, pressure from the general fund, about 3 million, but the entire project, we're about 25% of those project costs. So about 10 million when it's all said and done. But Keith, if you want to add anything, I just wanted to kind of lay out the big picture for you in terms of how the numbers are working.
Commissioner Sampad, does that help you?
I think partially. There's the 40 million, and we've secured 30 million in grant funding. And when we say we're approving 8.5, are we? Is that to be applied to the bigger $40 million project, or is it only to the 11 million that have been referenced and described today?
So it will be used as match within that larger project, but we are not taking any federal dollars to apply to this project.
Okay, so just to so that I'm tracking again, when you come the next time to approve the rest of the 30 million and change, whatever the exact amount is, there'll be very little or nothing going out of the general fund because that'll be coming from the grant sources.
There will still be money out of the general fund because this match doesn't completely cover what we said we would match, but a good chunk of it, the majority of it, will already have come from this project. So the ports piece will be considerably smaller when you see it next time than currently.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I don't know if I got it or not. So I think what I'm looking for is the $40 million and all of the projects associated with it. Because this is like death by 1,000 cuts. So this is a piece of it. But can you give us the overall picture of what the $40 million projects are? And then line item out this one as well as the rest of them. And yeah, I don't necessarily need that today, but I think Commissioner Sampad was kind of hitting on something that you mentioned a big number. This is a piece of the big number. Can we understand the totality of the overarching project? That's one piece. The other piece is I don't know that I truly understand the value proposition of doing this concrete. And then the other component of that is what is the ROI for doing this? And then I'm going to poke at something in the 8.5 million. I know I'm running through a bunch of things here, but there's 700,000 of contingency. It's a pretty benign project. Do you really need 700,000 of contingency for a paving project, which is just basic concrete? So I think for me, the overarching project, 40 million, understanding what the value proposition is of doing it, not just this project, but the overall project. And then maybe just something around why you think you need 700K of a very benign, non-complex project contingency for this project. Typically, I'd be used to risk-based contingency. If it's a non-complex project, then you lower your contingency. If it's a highly complex project, then you maybe apply a little bit more. But I don't know what the standard practice is for how you do that. So those are my questions. I know I rattle off a bunch of things, but I need to understand maybe just a little bit about the value proposition.
So I'd like to go ahead and describe the totality of the project, the 40 million, and I can speak about the risk, but I'm going to ask Keith to speak about the ROI and the benefit overall to the terminal of doing the project. Keith, does that work for you? Okay. All right, can we go back to, I think it's going to be easier if I can just point to a visual. Can we go back to, go back some slides here to the Terminal 6 cargo handling slide. Yep, there we go again. Back one more. Great, thank you. That's perfect. So the $40 million project really only has two pieces to it. This is one piece. The other piece is if you, let's see. I'm just trying to think if this is, yeah, let's just go with this. So the other piece is the paving. We're going to be repaving areas throughout the 604, 605, 606 yards. We'll be doing more pavement strengthening in those areas. And the 606 is going to be really wholesale. And then we're going to be doing more of the rectangles and the other pieces. So there's a pavement component. This is all still one. This is still that second phase of the project. There's a pavement component. We're also going to be overhauling the lighting and electrical system. And all right, we'll be overhauling the, as I said, the paving, or not the paving, sorry, the lighting and electrical, and that means replacing all of the lighting fixtures. That means rewiring, replacing a lot of the conduit. That is a much bigger project in terms of complexity, in terms of impact, because that will have to be phased. One of the benefits of this project is that the current project, this phase one, is that it does give us a little bit more breathing room on the pavement side, but there's really no way to get around the electrical piece, and that's going to be a sizable chunk of phase two. So those are the two projects. It's the one before you, and then the other is the combined paving and electrical upgrade for the bulk of the container terminal footprint. And those are really the only two projects that make up this $40 million. So, so there's not a long list. It's these two pieces. We're going to use the match of this one to leverage into match, or the cost of this project to leverage into match for that one larger project that I'm talking about. So this project is federalized, the one before you, but it has no federal dollars in it at this point. So that is the list of what the $40 million is. Before I hit the others, do you have questions about that, or does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Okay, so that's that. The risk, next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So the risks for this project are that the mill and inlay has to occur while the without impacting the terminal activity, which is not a huge risk. It's a slight risk that there would be some schedule and therefore cost impact. The bigger piece is that we are tearing up this pavement. We are digging to some degree. There's always risk associated with digging, because that, if you can think of that green box, that is basically we're digging a big hole. We're digging a very large swale. And so there's always some risk with, excuse me, the lighting manufacturer to make a change. And until we have that nailed down, there is some risk associated with that. 7% for the port is pretty typical for this kind of a project, but it's certainly something that we can look at with other agents, what other agencies are doing. But that is what we have been doing at the port, and that has served us well. The thing to note about this one is, because this is a $40 million project, ultimately this is one piece. Any contingency that we don't use will flow into that other project. and that other project is sized in a way that, or it's scoped, I should say, in a way that we will pave as much as we have money to do. We can expand that pavement. If we have money that we don't use in contingency here, it becomes money that's part of that larger project. We still hold on to it, if that makes sense.
It does. And I appreciate all of the context here. The only thing I'm still missing is I just haven't gotten why we're doing it.
And Keith, that's to you.
Yeah, so I think the thing to remember here is that we're doing it to modernize our infrastructure, which needs to be modernized. We're doing it to enable us to advance a more mixed-use terminal strategy that we otherwise would not be able to do. And we're foundationally taking advantage of federal dollars and, frankly, state support for investing in T6 to keep the container business alive. And so this is all strategic work. It's all speculative about if you invest this, you will enable the business that is there to stay, and you will build the business into the future. But I don't think we're going to find a specific project pro forma here that shows guaranteed revenues against the capital investment. And that's why we've gone so heavily for grant dollars here. If not for grant dollars, the general fund would not be able to pay for this project in totality. I hope that helps.
It sort of kind of does. It feels like it's just an upgrade to existing facilities versus enabling us to do more with Terminal 6. Am I missing something?
I think it's both. I think the part about upgrade that's really important is the stuff in orange, those long blocks that you see near the terminal. That's necessary from an efficiency standpoint of the operation. But what is, I would say, more of an investment into the future is the area in blue-green there that you see the build out onto the heavier pavements. That gives us much more ability to park heavy equipment on that piece near berth 606 than current, which is autos and autos only. So that gives us a lot more flexibility with heavy cargoes, which is really in service to that strategy for the future.
Okay. And this is the last question. Life expectancy of berth 606 and whatever you're going to upgrade here, are we going to come back in 5 years and need to do something different, or are we using the latest and greatest technology to upgrade this so that we don't have to worry about it for the next 20 years?
So we are, in this case, kind of the latest, greatest technology is a geotech design that tells us the thickness that we need for the pavement to meet the loads that we project over the next 20 years. So we use that projection. We know it's not right because nobody can predict anything precisely 20 years out. But the idea is that we will not need to come back and reconstruct. It won't be, maintenance free. There is going to be wear and tear on the pavement. We will have to maintain it over time. So those maintenance costs, we will continue to accrue. They'll be much less at first. But the design life and the requirement per grant is that we maintain this in good working condition for 20 years.
Awesome. I don't mean to scrutinize too much. It's just trying to seek to learn where, why we're making the investment and the value proposition to the terminal. So I appreciate the clarity and understanding.
Yeah, we are incrementally reducing maintenance costs with the light fixtures, because rather than have somebody go in a lift and go up, which is not the most safe, we can actually bring the lighting fixtures down to the ground, which is much cheaper and safer and easier. So there are incremental savings in even our operating costs from doing this project. But we will have to still, change out fixtures and, do that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Strader.
Yes, so this will solve some of the problems that we currently have with just functional obsolescence within those areas off to the left that you showed the condition of the pavement, as well as the expansion of the greater 606 area, which gives us more flexibility for the container operations as well. Because currently there is some safety issues out there too, potentially with trying to stack cans 4 high when they're on pavement surfaces that are not necessarily in good condition. Is that correct?
We do actually stack containers there. It's less of a safety concern. I mean, it is as far as do you stack heavy loaded containers or empties, and I can't speak to the operational decisions on that. I know that we do stack containers 4 high there, but it's very rarely used, and I'm sure that they're looking at wind and other factors when those areas are used. It is a consideration, but I wouldn't say that. I know that sometimes, occasionally, there are containers stacked that high, and we would not do that if in that specific instance there was a safety concern.
No, I understand that. The comment that I was making is currently in the condition it's in, it can be somewhat of a risk and a safety concern. When it's resurfaced, it gives us the ability to be more efficient in the operation itself and utilize it to its full capacity. Is that not correct?
It is, and you're absolutely right that in order to keep it safe, the operation does change, and they do take that into consideration. So the safety does limit what we do out there.
Thank you.
With the pavement the way it is now, yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the executive director's recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Pam, would you please call the roll?
Commissioners Koba,
Aye.
Devon,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Luther,
Aye.
Nimi,
Aye.
Stumput,
Aye.
and Strader.
Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Keith. That's the end of our agenda. Does anyone have anything? Do we want to jointly go into a chorus of the Pointer Sisters song? Maybe next meeting. All right. Well, we're very excited for our next meeting, opening day. And thank you, everybody. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great week.